Hey class, today we're going to work on standard form of quadratic functions, which is found in section 4-2, part 1 of your book. Our objective is to graph quadratic functions written in standard form. So in example 1, we're going to find the features of a quadratic function using a graphing calculator. So the first thing we're going to do, we see our function, it says y equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 2. Okay. First thing you're going to want to do is type that into the graph section of your calculator. So if your calculator is not on, go ahead and turn it on. And then you're going to press the y equals button at the very top. Clear out anything if it is there, and then start to type in our function. So we would type 2x squared plus 8x and then minus 2. After you're done typing that in, you press the graph button and it should graph for you. Alright, so remember, to be able to find the vertex, we want either the highest or the lowest point of our graph. Alright, so in this case, what we need to do is then view our graph. Do we have a maximum or do we have a minimum? Actually, that should be the first thing we want to answer. So in this case, we have a minimum. So I'm going to write that. Alright, and by the way, this is what our graph will look like, so just a moment. This is actually what our graph looks like, okay? And so we do have a minimum, and I know it cuts it off here, but in order to be able to see the bottom part of our graph on our calculator, we would press second trace, which gives us calc. And since this is the minimum, you go down to minimum, press enter. And then you have to guess, you have to have the calculator guess. So you need to go to the left side. It's asking for left bound first, so you need to press the left side of the parabola, press enter. Go to the right side of the parabola, press enter, and then you press enter again to guess. And it's telling us that our minimum, which is our vertex, is the ordered pair -2, -10. Which makes sense as to why we can't see it on this particular graph. Okay, after that we need to find the axis of symmetry. Well, remember the axis of symmetry cuts our vertex, and we look at the x value. So our axis of symmetry is x equals -2. And finally our range, well, we can see our graph, we see that it's opening upward, so y would be greater than or equal to -10. And so now we found everything that we need to know about this graph. Let's try the next one. In try 1, it says using a graphing calculator, what are, I don't know why that says what are getting. That's supposed to be what, anyways. What are your vertex, axis symmetry, maximum or minimum value, and range? So again, let's go into y equals, clear out anything if there is there. Type negative, not the minus, but -3x squared, then minus 4x, and then plus 6. Press the graph button, and we'll get our graph. This is the graph that you should get. Alright, so since this is our graph, we're first going to want to get our vertex. Well, we can see here obviously that this is going to be a maximum. This is a maximum. And so again, using our calculator, we're going to guess. Okay, so you need to press second trace, which gives you the calc function. You're going to go down to maximum this time, and then you need to go over to the left side, press enter, go over to the right side, press enter, and then enter to guess. And what we get here, technically we get it in decimals, or at least that's how my calculator is putting it up. So, oops, sorry. So our answer was, sorry, let me get back to it. Our maximum, oops. It says -0.67. We know that's the same thing as -2/3. So our vertex and our maximum is -2/3 comma, and then it says 7.333, and we know 3 repeating is a third. So this is comma 7 1/3. And we can kind of tell that from looking at the graph that we currently have. Okay, so that's our maximum, that's our vertex. Then it asks for the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry splits through the vertex. So our axis of symmetry is x equals -2/3. And then our range deals with the y value of the vertex. And so our range is y is less than or equal to 7 1/3. And we're done with try 1. So the quadratic function in standard form, they go ahead and now list the properties. This part is very, very important, so let's take a look at all of it. So they're telling you that the standard form is f of x equals x squared plus bx plus c. That's actually what we just dealt with. Okay, and then from there, they're telling you there are certain properties about the a, b, and c. If you kind of manipulate them a little bit, you can find your axis of symmetry without having to graph it on a graphing calculator. All right, so it says if a is greater than 0, then the parabola opens upward. If a is less than 0, then the parabola opens downward. And that kind of helps us with trying to determine if it's going to be max or minimum. The next part goes on to say the axis of symmetry. That's really important. So the axis of symmetry is a line x, and then x would equal -b over 2a. So using the b and the a from the original standard form, that's how we can find our axis of symmetry. From there, to be able to find the x-coordinate, well, the x-coordinate is the exact same thing as the axis of symmetry, okay? But to be able to find the y-coordinate, for the vertex, we would have to substitute in the axis of symmetry, the axis of symmetry, which is our x value, into our function, into the original parent function. And then lastly, the y-intercept is 0, whatever the c value is. Okay, so honestly, the most difficult part is trying to find the y value. Everything else is pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. But let's go ahead and try example 1. And so, by the way, after we have all these parts, then we can kind of graph from there. All right, so I've given you just a parent function of y equals x squared, but we're asked to graph y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3. First thing we need to do is identify a, b, and c. So a is the coefficient of x squared, which is 1, b is 2, and c is 3. Okay, now using that information, let's first find the axis of symmetry, which is also the same as x. So remember, the formula for x is -b over 2a. Which would give you -2 over 2 times 1, which if you multiply and reduce, you will get -1 as your x. Okay, so now that we have -1, to be able to find the y-coordinate, all I do is I substitute -1 into the entire equation. So here we go. Y equals -1 squared plus 2 times -1 plus 3. If I multiply that all out, I will get y equals, that should be 1 minus 2 plus 3. 1 minus 2 is -1, and then -1 plus 3 is going to equal 2. So y is going to equal 2. All right, so our vertex is -1, 2. The axis of symmetry is -1. And this is going, x equals -1. This is going to open upward, so this is actually, our vertex is a minimum. And then the range, since that is a minimum, will be y is greater than or equal to 2. All right, so now we want to graph that. So we first start by graphing our vertex, which is -1, 2. So -1, 2. I'm going to use now a different color. So for our vertex, I'm going to plot that in blue. So -1, +2. And then remember, to find the other parts, we just test the points around it. So let's test 0. So if I test 0, I would put 0 into our original function. And by the way, we never found the y-intercept, and the y-intercept was pretty simple, right? The y-intercept is going to be 0, comma, the last number, which in this case is 3. And that's actually the point we were going to test anyway, right? And so that means -2 will also be 3. Let's test one more point. Let's go ahead and test this 1 here. So if I say 1 squared, that's 1, plus 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2, so that's 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. So 1 will go all the way up to 6. And so then that also means that -3 will also go all the way up to 6. So this is going to be our graph. And I kind of missed it by a lot. And let's just verify that that's actually correct. Okay, well the graph I did won't pop up, but that's good enough. It's okay. So that's it. So that is our graph. And so what you notice is all of the parts have been found. So again, it all started from identifying A, B, and C. After we've identified A, B, and C, we want to find the x value, which is -b over 2a. Once we find that value, we substitute into the whole thing, and now we have our vertex. From that, we can find the axis of symmetry, the range, and the y-intercept. And then we start to graph the same way that we've done in the past. So let's do try 2. All right, try 2. Once again, this is our basic function. And I'm going to go ahead this time, since I didn't do so on the last one, I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer first and then prove to you why this is the answer. So if it will pop up for me. All right, so the one at the bottom should be our graph. So this one down here is going to be our answer. But let's check and see why that's our answer. So again, A is going to equal -2 this time. B is going to equal 2, and C is going to equal -5. Okay, so then the first thing we want to do is find x. So x equals -b over 2a. So -b would be -2 over 2a, which is 2 times -2. That will give us -2 over -4, which reduces to 1/2. That's our x value, and we can see that that's accurate, right? So then I take that x value and substitute it into my overall function. So that's -2 times 1/2 squared plus 2 times 1/2 minus 5. 1/2 squared is 1/4, and -2 divided by 4 is -1/2. Plus 2 times 1/2, or 2 divided by 2 is 1, minus 5. So -1/2 plus 1, -1/2 plus 1 is 1/2, and then 1/2 minus 5 should be -4.5. And if we can see, that is exactly what we got right there as our vertex. So our vertex is 1/2, comma, -4 and 1/2. Okay, so if that's our vertex, then our axis of symmetry, remember, it goes directly through 1/2, so it would be x equals 1/2. The range, we can see it even more clearly, that the range is y is less than or equal to -4 and 1/2. And then after that, let's see, we have the vertex, the axis of symmetry, we have the range. I feel like I'm missing something. Let's see. Oh, and this one's going to be a maximum. This vertex is a max. Okay, so if we wanted to then go past this, we would have tested some points surrounding it. So what I would have done, oh, I forgot the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, remember, is 0, comma, whatever the c is. So that'd be 0, comma, -5. And that's exactly what we have right here. Okay, so if 0 is -5, then that means that 1 was also going to be -5. Okay, and then from there, I probably would have tested 2, and then whatever I got for 2, I would have substituted. So just to make sure that we're right, let's go ahead and test 2. So that'd be y equals -2 times 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 5. that will give us 2 squared is 4, and then 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, plus 4 minus 5. So that's going to be negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9, and that's what we get. 2 and negative 9 is going to be right here. So that means that negative 1 and negative 9 should be there. So guys, we've done this. All we did was, honestly, we got the graph and we proved that this is why the graph is correct. All right, so I hope this helps. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. We can do some tutoring.